After family dinner, while I was in the kitchen, my daughter-in-law leaned in and whispered, "You old witch, I only tolerate you because of my husband." I just laughed and replied, "Don't worry, you won't have to see me again." The next morning, I changed the locks on the house and the betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut, not from a stranger, but from the very people I'd let into my home, my son and his wife. They called me an old burden, an old bag, and then, in their ultimate act of entitlement, demanded I give up my last sanctuary, my bedroom, so they could use it as an office. But that day, something inside me finally snapped. I woke at 6 a.m. as usual, not by choice, but because at 65, sleep had become a light, fitful visitor. I lay there, gathering my thoughts, then carefully, so as not to jar my aching joints, I sat up. This was my bed, in my room, in my apartment. Though, lately, it often felt like none of it belonged to me anymore. Outside, Hayward was stirring. Edward's car used to be among those first few crawling towards Oakland and San Francisco for 32 years. Then he was gone, and everything changed. I threw on my robe and left my room. Our apartment, a spacious 120 square meters, was built with so many plans, so many hopes. Now, it felt like a battlefield where I was constantly losing. The kitchen was clean. Old habits die hard for an emergency room nurse. Order was paramount, especially when chaos reigned around you. I put the kettle on for my salon tea, my one small joy. Darla, my sister-in-law, only drank capsule coffee and wrinkled her nose when I brewed it. While the water boiled, I started pancakes for Terrence, my son, a childhood tradition I clung to, a fragile thread to a past when we were a real family. The back door creaked. Oliver, my youngest grandson, shuffled in. At 14, he was already taller than me, all lanky limbs and tangled dark hair, his eyes hidden behind long bangs, headphones practically glued to his ears. "Good morning, Oliver," I smiled. "Pancakes in 15. He merely nodded, not removing his headphones, and sat down with his tablet. I'd stopped taking his behavior personally long ago. At least he didn't snap like Rachel, his older sister. But I knew Oliver saw everything, understood the silent war being waged in our home better than anyone. "Mom, have you seen my blue sweater?" Rachel burst in, already dressed and made up at 17, a beautiful copy of her mother, but with her father's kind, brown eyes, inherited from my late Edward. "I washed it yesterday, dear. Should be in your closet." I already looked there, she snapped, then immediately softened. "Sorry, Mom. Just late for my vet project meeting." I nodded, remembering her dream, sparked by Edward's gift of a wild animal book. "Look in the laundry basket in the bathroom. I might have forgotten to hang it up." She reappeared a minute later, sweater in hand. "Thanks, Mom." "You're the best," she said, grabbing a pancake, kissing my cheek before rushing out. "This is so good, Marlene." Darla's sharp voice made me jump. She never called me Mom, just Marlene, as if we were peers. She stood in the doorway, hands on her hips, her 39-year-old self slim, fit and impeccably dressed, as always, for an imagined corporate interview. "Did you move my things in the bathroom again?" "I just wiped down the shelves, Darla. All your jars are where you left them." "I can't find my hand cream," she squinted, "the one Terrence gave me for our anniversary." "Maybe it's in the bedroom?" I suggested, flipping pancakes. "I always keep it in the bathroom," she snapped. "In the right drawer where all my other things are, the ones you're always moving around." Oliver snorted softly behind me, eyes fixed on his tablet. Rachel rolled her eyes. "Mom, I saw your cream on your nightstand," she said, finishing her pancake. "I'm late, gotta go." Darla pursed her lips, offering no thank you to either of us, and left, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and unspoken accusations. I put the pancakes on the table. Terrence appeared, 42, with a receding hairline and a small belly. He still looked like the little boy I'd carried, my only son, my pride and my pain. "Good morning, Mom." "Pancakes. You're a miracle." In moments like this, I wanted to believe it wasn't all lost. "Your father always said Saturday wasn't Saturday without pancakes," I smiled, pouring his coffee. He nodded, not looking up. We both knew he didn't like me talking about Edward. It made him awkward, reminded him of how much had changed since his death 5 years ago. Darla returned, cream held demonstratively. It was on the nightstand, just like Rachel said, she said, giving me a pointed look. Next time, Marlene, don't touch my things, okay? Everyone needs their personal space. I nodded silently, though 1,000 things screamed inside me. This is my personal space. This is my apartment. I'm still paying the mortgage. I let you move in after Terrence lost his job, thinking it would be temporary. But 3 years had passed. Instead, I poured more tea and walked to the window. Mom, Darla and I are going to Roy's birthday party tonight, Terrence said, chewing a pancake. Will you stay with the kids? It was never a question, always a statement, a calm plea disguised as a command. Sure, I said, turning with a smile. I've got a new book. Great, Darla said, grabbing a yogurt. By the way, I noticed you used my shampoo again. The French one. I asked you not to touch it, Marlene. It's expensive. I hadn't touched her shampoo. I had my own supermarket brand. But there was no point arguing. I'm sorry, Darla. I won't do it again. She nodded, accepting my vassal's apology, and sat down with Terrence, discussing their evening plans, completely ignoring me. I finished my tea, put the cup in the dishwasher, and retreated to my room, relieved. As I passed Oliver's room, soft music seeped out. The door was ajar. My grandson was absorbed in a game, his thin shoulders tense. Oliver, want to go for a walk today? Weather's nice. He took off his headphones. Can't, Grandma. Online tournament. Team game. I understand, I smiled. He nodded, headphones back on. We used to go to the park. I'd tell him stories from my ambulance days. But over the last year, he'd withdrawn, preferring the virtual world to the real one. I didn't blame him. The tension here was palpable. In my room, I took out an old photo album. Edward and I, our wedding. Terrence, his first steps, his graduation. Meeting Darla. Rachel's birth, then Oliver's. Edward, already gray-haired, full of life, before a heart attack took him so suddenly 5 years ago. After his death, I held on. 2 more years in the ambulance, then retirement. A few months later, Terrence lost his job. Mom, we need time to get back on our feet. Can we stay with you? Just for a year. How could I refuse my only son? They sold their house, paying off debts that, I later learned, were mostly gambling losses. Terrence got a factory job, a pay cut. Darla stayed at the laundromat. They had enough for necessities and the kids' education. I didn't ask for rent, only for my share of utilities. But gradually, everything changed. Darla started rearranging the kitchen, commenting on my habits. Terrence stayed silent. I tried to defend my boundaries, but it always ended in a cold war that hurt the children. So I gave in, first on small things, then more serious ones. I hid the album when Rachel knocked. Mom, can I come in? She slipped inside, closing the door, looking around as if checking we were alone. I wanted to apologize for Mom, she said quietly, for what she said about the shampoo. It's okay, sweetie. But it's not right. This is your house, and she acts like I'm a guest taking advantage of your hospitality. I finished gently. Rachel nodded, biting her lip. I talked to Dad, but he just brushes it off. Says you like taking care of us. I sighed. Terrence had always been a master of self-deception. Sometimes, Rachel, I took her hand. It's easier for people to ignore problems than to deal with them. Your dad's a good man. He's just afraid of conflict. She looked me in the eye. Grandma, why do you let them treat you like that? It's your apartment. You could kick you all out. I shook my head. You're my family. You're all I have left. Rachel hugged me. I've been writing down your stories, she said unexpectedly. The ones about the ambulance, the lives you saved. You were so brave, Ba. What happened to that woman? I didn't know how to answer. Where was the Marlene Rise who rushed into burning buildings, who made split-second life-or-death decisions, who put arrogant doctors in their place, who knew her worth? She's still here, I said, touching my chest. Just a little tired. Rachel nodded, stood up. I have to finish my project, but I wanted you to know that Oliver and I are on your side. Always. When she left, I sat motionless, staring out the window. Hayward, an ordinary town, ordinary families, ordinary problems. Then another knock. Louder. Marlene. It was Darla. I want to wash the curtains. Can you help me take them down? I took a deep breath, preparing to leave my refuge and return to a reality where I was not the mistress of the house, but a servant in my own home. Of course, Darla. I'm on my way. You know, Marlene, sometimes I don't understand how you can stand it. Lauren stirred her coffee vigorously, though the sugar had long dissolved. We were in our favorite cafe, the Bluebird, 2 blocks from the library where she'd worked for 27 years. I lowered my eyes to my weak tea. It's not that bad, I tried to smile, but it faltered. Stop it. Lauren narrowed her eyes. At 63, she was as direct as when we met in high school. You're letting them walk all over you in your own home. I sighed. Lauren always saw right through me. What am I supposed to do? Kick them out? They're my family. Families don't treat each other like that, she said, setting her cup down with a thud. I've known you for 50 years. Where is the woman who once stood up to a drunk bully twice her size? I smiled, remembering. I was 19. We were young and stupid. No, it was brave and right. Do you remember how many lives you saved in the ambulance? How many difficult decisions? Where is that Marlene? Memories flooded back. 28 years. Paramedic, then senior team member. Sleepless nights, adrenaline, the feeling I was doing something vital. The highway accident, 5 victims from a wrecked minibus. Delivering a baby in a skyscraper elevator with a flashlight. Rescuing elderly people from a nursing home fire. In those moments, I never hesitated. I knew what to do, and I did it. You were strong, Lauren's voice brought me back. What happened to that woman? She grew old, I smiled bitterly. And she was left alone. Nonsense, Lauren waved her hand. I'm not getting any younger, and my husband died 8 years ago. But I don't let anyone walk all over me, and neither should you. I said nothing. Hayward had changed, or maybe I had, becoming quieter, more inconspicuous. Tell me what's going on, Lauren said, pushing a plate of lemon pie towards me. And eat. You've lost weight. I obediently picked up my fork. Everything's the same. Darla bosses everyone around. Terrence keeps quiet. They treat everything as theirs, but criticize me for touching their things. Darla criticizes me for everything, dishes, radio, laundry. And Terrence? He says nothing. Or just brushes it off. Mom, you know Darla, she just likes to be in control. As if that's an excuse, Lauren snorted. And the kids. My face softened. Rachel understands. Sometimes she tries to stand up for me, but it's hard with her mother. Oliver's withdrawn into his own world. We used to walk and talk. Now he barely leaves his room. This isn't healthy, Lauren tapped her nail on the table. For any of you. You have to do something. What exactly? I spread my hands. They've been here 3 years. They don't have money. If I kick them out, where will they go? You don't have to kick them out, Lauren rolled her eyes. But you need to set boundaries. It's your home. You deserve respect. Remind them of that. I was silent. Something stirred inside me, that old determination. But it quickly faded, overwhelmed by the fear of being utterly alone. I'll think about it, I finally said. I promise. Lauren snorted skeptically but changed the subject. I got home around 5 p.m., loaded with groceries. Terrence was supposedly working overtime. The apartment was quiet. Oliver's door was closed. Muffled voices came from Terrence and Darla's bedroom. Are you serious, Terrence? 12,000. Darla's voice, raw with anger, pierced the closed door. That's all our savings. I froze, listening, heart pounding. I was sure the Lakers would win. Terrence's voice sounded pathetic. They had a great winning streak. I don't care about their winning streak. Darla was almost shouting. We saved that money for a down payment to finally get out of here. I covered my mouth. $12,000. He'd lost $12,000 gambling. Again. I'll win it back. I promise. I have a system. His voice was desperate. A system. Darla's hysterical laughter echoed. Your system got us into your mother's house 3 years ago. I thought you'd given it up. Listen, honey, Terrence said more quietly. I'll pay it all back. I've been offered extra shifts. I can ask my mom no. Darla snapped. I've had enough of your favors. I'm not going to be even more dependent on your mother. The bedroom door flew open. I barely had time to turn towards the refrigerator, pretending to put groceries away. Darla flew out, slamming the door. Oh, Marlene. You're back already. Her eyes were red. Her hair tousled. I'd never seen her so distraught. Just got home, I smiled as naturally as I could. Bought everything for dinner. Thought I'd make tuna casserole. Terrence loves it. Darla stared for a few seconds. Then she shook her head. Do whatever you want. I'm leaving. Don't wait for me. She grabbed her bag and jacket and rushed out. I exhaled, only realizing I'd been holding my breath. Terrence came out, pale, a blank look on his face. He stopped in the doorway. You heard everything, didn't you? He asked quietly. I nodded. 12,000, Terrence. How could you? My voice trembled. He lowered his eyes, and I saw a little boy who'd broken a neighbor's window, afraid to admit it. I thought I'd get lucky, he muttered. I studied the statistics. Don't do this anymore, I said, taking his hand. Please, Terrence, you're destroying yourself and your family. He nodded, still not looking at me. I know. I'll quit. I promise. This time for sure. We both knew it was a lie. Go rest, I said, gently pushing him. I'll call you for dinner. Alone, I cooked mechanically. Lauren's words echoed. You let them walk all over you. And now this. Terrence had lost everything. Darla was furious. I knew her anger would inevitably spill over onto me. The weakest link. Rachel returned at 7, lively. Hi, Mom. How was your day? Did you see Lauren? Yes, we had a nice time. I smiled, not wanting to burden her. How's your test prep? Great. Tuna casserole? Where's Mom? She went out. Said not to wait for her. Rachel frowned. Did they fight again? I heard her yelling this morning. I hesitated. They had a disagreement. They need time to cool off. Rachel nodded. Not the first time. I'll get Oliver for dinner. Dinner was silent. Terrence barely touched his food. Oliver was lost in thought. Rachel tried to lighten the mood but gave up. Afterwards, I sent the kids to do homework and started dishes. Terrence silently helped clear the table, then went to the living room, his usual refuge. Darla returned around 10 p.m. I'd just finished ironing. Hearing the front door, I froze, expecting another outburst. But instead, a woman's laughter. Darla wasn't alone. Come in, Nancy. My sister-in-law's voice sounded relaxed, even cheerful. Terrence is probably asleep, and the old woman is unlikely to stick her nose out of her room. I stood frozen in my bedroom doorway. The old woman? Was she talking about me? Are you sure? It's late. I don't want to disturb anyone. Come on, it's my house. Darla dismissed me. I can invite whoever I want, whenever I want. I bit my lip. Her house? After 3 years of living off me, she considered this apartment hers? How is it living with your husband's mother? Nancy's voice was curious. Isn't it cramped? I heard them go into the kitchen, glasses clinking. Wine. It's temporary. Darla's voice was confident. We've almost saved up for the down payment on our own house. Lies. After Terrence's loss, they had nothing. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses, Darla continued, lowering her voice, but I still heard every word. Marlene sticks her nose everywhere, moves our things around, constantly lectures the kids, especially Rachel. She's already like a grandmother. I feel for you, Nancy said. My mother-in-law was a real pain until she moved to Florida. Best decision. They both laughed. A lump rose in my throat. So that's how it was. I was a pain in the neck? A nuisance? The hardest part is pretending to appreciate all her favors, Darla said, clearly making air quotes. Her dinners, her laundry, her cleaning, as if we couldn't manage without her. Why put up with it? Nancy sounded genuinely puzzled. Why not just move out? Money, Darla sighed. Housing costs a fortune. And since Terrence got demoted, anyway, we have to put up with the old bag, but it won't be for long. I promise. The old bag. That's what I was. That's what I'd become in my own home. I quietly closed my bedroom door, hands trembling. Tears stung my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Years in the ambulance had taught me to hold back emotions. I looked at my hands, wrinkled but still strong. Hands that had held newborns, closed the eyes of the dying. Stitched wounds set broken bones. Hands that, according to Darla, were now just a tool for serving her family. You let them walk all over you. Lauren's voice echoed. For the first time in a long time, I admitted she was right. I had let it happen. I had become invisible in my own home, an old burden. Something cracked inside me, like ice on a spring river. A thin, barely noticeable crack. But I knew cracks like that had a tendency to grow. The next week dragged on. I tried to act normal. Made breakfast, cleaned, did laundry. But something had changed inside. Old burden rang in my ears. Terrence was depressed. Darla pointedly ignored him, talking only to the children. Rachel and Oliver exchanged worried glances, sensing the tension. On Friday evening, I was dusting the living room when the front door slammed. Darla was home early. Something in her energetic gait, the click of her heels, told me she had news. "Oh, Marlene, you're here," she said, tossing her bag on the sofa, scanning the room. "Great. We need to talk." I put down the duster. "Something happened, Darla?" "Yes. And something wonderful." She smiled, that special smile that never reached her eyes. "I got a promotion. Manager of the laundry chain." "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "That's great news." "Yes, the pay is better, career prospects too," she said, looking around, "but there's one condition. I have to do some of the work remotely from home. I need a home office." Something stirred inside me. A bad feeling. "Maybe we could remodel part of the living room?" I suggested. "Put a desk by the window." "No, Marlene." She shook her head. "I need a separate space where no one will disturb me." "I was thinking about your room." I froze. "My room?" "Yes." She nodded, as if it were the most natural suggestion. "It's the brightest and most spacious after Terrence's. And frankly, it's too big for one person, especially with your minimal belongings." My minimal belongings. For years, I'd been getting rid of my things to make room for her junk. I'd given her shelves in my closets, drawers in my dressers, space in the storage room. Now she wanted my last bit of personal space. "Where am I going to sleep?" My voice was quiet, almost submissive. "We can convert the storage room," Darla shrugged. "It's small, but there's enough room for a bed and a nightstand." "You only sleep there anyway, right?" A wave of anger rose, but years of suppressing my feelings took over. "I need to think about it, Darla," I said evenly. "These are big changes." "Of course, think about it." She smiled condescendingly. "But I'd like to start rearranging tomorrow. The office furniture will be delivered on Wednesday." She'd already ordered it. Without asking me. "Have you discussed this with Terrence?" I asked, hoping my son would stand up for me. "Of course," she dismissed me. "He's all for it. This is our chance to finally get back on our feet after recent events." Recent events? That's what she called his $12,000 loss. "I'll talk to him," I said, a strange calmness growing inside me. Not humility, but something else. Something dangerous. "Please," Darla shrugged. "Just don't take too long to decide. I already ordered the paint. Light gray will look great." She turned and walked into the kitchen, leaving me in the living room with a dust rag in my hand. My house, my room, my life. They were going to change it all without my consent. Terrence came home around 7. I was waiting in the kitchen, cooking his favorite roast. Darla was at a meeting, the kids at a friend's. Alone, mother and son, like the old days. "Smells amazing, Mom." He smiled, but his smile faded when he saw my face. "Is something wrong?" "Darla told me about her promotion," I said, pointing him to a chair. "Sit down. Let's talk." He nervously licked his lips. "Yes, it's great news. Her salary will almost double, and she wants to take my room for her office," I interrupted. "Is it true that you agreed?" Terrence lowered his eyes. I knew his answer. "Mom, it's only temporary," he began. "As soon as we save up for a down payment on a house after you lost $12,000? I shook my head. "Terrence, Do you realize you're asking me to move into a storage room? A windowless room the size of a closet. We'll make it comfortable, he said, still not looking at me. Put in a nice bed, lamps. It's not about the bed, I sighed. It's about respect. This is my house, Terrence. I'm still paying the mortgage on it. I know, he slumped further. And we're grateful, but this is a chance for Darla, for all of us. With her new salary, we can save faster. And how long will that take? I looked at my son, trying to see the responsible man Edward and I had hoped to raise. A year? 2? 5? When was the last time you did something for yourself instead of just going with the flow and indulging Darla? That's not fair. He finally looked up, hurt in his eyes. I'm trying to provide for my family. Yes, I made a mistake with those bets, but I'm working on it. And Darla's promotion is our chance to make things right. By making your mother live in a closet? I shook my head. Terrence, this isn't right and you know it. He was silent, staring at his untouched roast. I saw the struggle. Part of him knew I was right. Another, stronger part, was afraid of his wife. I'll talk to Darla, he finally said. Maybe we can work something out. I knew he wouldn't. Or he'd pretend to. Okay. I nodded, giving him one last chance to show some backbone. Talk to her. The evening passed in tense silence. Terrence watched TV. I sat in the kitchen, going over options. The storage room was tiny, 6 square meters, no windows, a single light bulb. The prospect of spending my life there was depressing. But what depressed me most was losing my vinyl record collection, more than 200 albums, classical jazz to 60s rock and roll, that Edward and I had built over a lifetime. No room for them in the closet. The next morning, I woke to furniture being moved. Darla and Terrence were in the living room. What's going on? I asked, wrapping my robe around me. We're getting ready, Darla smiled, her eyes cold. Terrence said you discussed everything. I looked at my son. He avoided my gaze. We talked, I said slowly, but I didn't give my consent. Darla straightened. The smile vanished. I thought it was settled. The office furniture is delivered Wednesday. We wanted to start repainting today. I haven't decided yet, Darla. This is a big change. I need time. There's no time, she snapped. I need to start working from home Monday. If the room isn't ready, I could lose this opportunity. Mom, Terrence finally looked at me. Please. This is very important to us. Anger rose inside me. They didn't even ask. They just decided. I need to think about it, I said firmly. Don't touch anything in my room until I've made a decision. But, Darla began. No. I raised my hand, stopping her. It's my room in my house. I have a right to think about this. Without waiting, I went back to my room and closed the door. My heart pounded. For the first time in a long time, I had openly defied Darla. And it felt liberating. I spent the day thinking. Part of me wanted to give in for peace. Another part, the determined Marlene of the past, rebelled against another humiliation. By evening, no decision. Around 6 p.m., Rachel knocked. I brought you some chamomile, she said, handing me the cup. Can I come in? Of course. I heard what's going on. She sat on the bed. It's not fair, Mom. They can't evict you. They think they can, I said with a bitter smile. And to be honest, I've led them to believe I'll give in. But not this time, right? Rachel looked at me. Hopefully you won't agree. I sighed, looking at my record shelves. Each one held memories. Edward and I dancing to Frank Sinatra. Little Terrence falling asleep to Ella Fitzgerald. Family game nights with the Beatles. I don't know, I said. Honestly, I don't want to cause trouble. Come on, Rachel took my hand. They're the ones causing trouble. This is your home. At that moment, the door swung open without a knock. Darla stood there, tape measure in hand. Oh, you're here, she said, glancing at us. Rachel, go help your father with the boxes in the living room. What boxes? For your things. Darla entered, measuring the wall. I decided not to waste any time. We'll start packing tomorrow so we can paint Sunday. I didn't give my consent, Darla. My patience was gone. And I asked you not to touch my room. Marlene, she sighed with feigned patience. We can't wait forever. We have to make a decision now. And I've made mine, I said firmly. The answer is no. I'm not moving into the closet. Darla froze, tape measure in hand. Rachel held her breath. What do you mean no? Darla slowly turned to me. This is not up for discussion. I need an office and I need my room. I met her gaze. Find another solution. Like what? Darla crossed her arms. Convert Rachel's room or Oliver's. They're children. They need space to study. And I don't need space? I felt indignation. Am I not a person? You're retired, Darla snapped. What are you going to do in such a big room? Stare at the ceiling? The closet is plenty big enough for you. Rachel gasped. Mom, how can you say that? Mind your own business. Darla shot her an angry look. Go to your father. No, Rachel stood next to me. I'm staying with Grandma. This is her room, and you have no right to kick her out. Terrence appeared in the doorway, drawn by the raised voices. What's going on? He looked from his wife to his daughter and mother. Your mother refuses to move, Darla said dryly. She says she needs this room. For what, I wonder? For this junk. She pointed to the record shelves. It's not junk, I took a step forward, something breaking inside me. This is Edward's. It's my collection. Our life. Our memories. Edward's been gone for 5 years, Darla rolled her eyes. It's time to move on. These records are just gathering dust. You could sell them? I think some are worth a lot of money. Sell them. I felt the blood drain from my face. You want to sell my records? Why not? Darla shrugged. No one listens to them anyway, and we need the money. You always need money, I shook my head, but not at the expense of my memories. Darla, Terrence interjected uncertainly. Maybe we can find another solution. Mom's records, oh God. Don't start. Darla cut him off. I thought we had discussed everything. We need this office. It's our chance to finally get out of the debt you got us into. Don't talk like that in front of the children, Terrence paled. What am I supposed to say? Pretend everything is fine. Darla raised her voice. We need money. I need an office, and I'm going to get it. Even if I have to take all this junk to the dump. She grabbed a record from the shelf, a rare Chet Baker album Edward had given me on our last anniversary. No. I lunged. Don't you dare touch it. Or what? Darla stepped back, holding the record above her head. What are you going to do, Marlene? Kick us out. She laughed. Come on, we all know you're too scared to be alone. You're only still living here because we put up with you. The silence was deafening. I froze, unable to believe my ears. Terrence stared, wide-eyed. Rachel pressed a hand to her mouth. What did you say? My voice was unrecognizably calm. You heard me. Darla lowered the record, but didn't put it back. It's time to face the truth. This is our home now. We live here. We're raising our children here. And you? You're just an old woman clinging to the past and preventing us from moving forward. Selfish old hag. Darla. Terrence finally found his voice. You're crossing the line. No, she's crossing the line. Darla pointed a finger at me. By refusing to give up the room we need. Old hag. I raised my hand, stopping the flow of insults. Something inside me had changed. A wall had come crashing down, holding back everything I had felt for years. You're right about one thing, Darla. I said. It's time to face the truth. I looked around the room. My room. My apartment. The apartment I was still paying for with my modest pension. The apartment where I had allowed my sister-in-law to boss me around. Humiliate me. Treat me like a servant. This is my home, I said quietly, but firmly. My apartment. The one I pay for. The one I let you move into 3 years ago out of pity because you couldn't afford to rent anywhere after Terrence lost all his money gambling. Darla paled but continued to stare defiantly. So what? You can't kick us out. You can't live alone. You're afraid of being alone. You need us more than we need you. That's not true. I shook my head. I managed on my own for 2 years after Edward died. I can manage now. I looked at Terrence, pale and confused. I put up with all this because you're my family. I thought I was helping you, but I was wrong. I wasn't helping. I was letting you use me. And that ends now. I walked over to Darla, gently but firmly took the record from her hands and put it back on the shelf. No one touches my things, I said. No one is taking my room. And if you don't like it, then you'll have to find another place to live." After that, an oppressive silence fell. Darla shot me a withering glance, went into her bedroom, and slammed the door. Terrence stood in my doorway, wanting to say something, but shrugged and followed her. Rachel hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you, Ba," she whispered, before going to her room. Even Oliver, usually oblivious, opened his door a crack and looked at me with a new expression, surprise, or perhaps respect. I was left alone, heart pounding, hands shaking, but strangely calm, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. It was late, around 11, but I knew I wouldn't sleep. Instead, I took an old photo album from my dresser. Edward and I, young, smiling, in front of this apartment the day we signed papers in 1987. Terrence, 5, holding our hands, his front tooth missing. "Our home," Edward had said, arm around me. "We did it, Marlene." We'd worked like crazy, double shifts, nights at the hospital, saving every dollar. The feeling of owning your home, knowing no one could kick you out, was priceless. Another page. Edward painting the living room, paint-splattered jeans. Me washing windows in a headscarf. Terrence, important, lugging tools. We did all the renovations ourselves, sang, danced with paintbrushes and mops, celebrated with pizza. Lauren, in the corner, laughing, gave us the first record for our collection, Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind. "Start with the classics," she'd said. Every month, no matter how tight money was, a new record. Our ritual. Jazz, rock, blues, classical. Our collection grew, a musical world reflecting our changing tastes and moods. I closed the album and went to the shelves. My fingers traced the spines. Each one a piece of my life with Edward. Our first years, Terrence's birth, family holidays, quiet evenings. Edward always said music was the language of the soul. He loved jazz. I loved rock and folk. We found compromises, discovered new things together. And now Darla wanted to throw it all away or sell it like junk to make room for her office in my house. I sat on the bed, looking out at Hayward at night, city lights twinkling. Edward loved that view. "Imagine how many lives, how many stories," he'd say. What would he say if he saw what our family had become? What would he advise? I knew the answer. Edward always taught Terrence respect and responsibility. He wouldn't approve of how his son let his wife treat me. He certainly wouldn't stay silent if someone tried to evict him from his own bedroom. How did I let things get this far? After Edward's death, I was devastated. Numb. For a year, I just existed. Terrence and his family visited every weekend. I was grateful. Then he lost his job. I didn't hesitate to offer. It seemed perfect. They wouldn't pay rent, I wouldn't be alone. More time with the grandkids. At first, it was good. Darla cooked, Terrence helped, the kids brought life and laughter. But gradually, imperceptibly, the balance shifted. Little things at first. Darla rearranged the kitchen without asking. Bought foods I never ate. The routine revolved around their schedule. At some point, I realized I was asking permission to turn on the TV in my own living room. I let them. I justified it, they're young. I don't want to interfere. It's not important. Just for peace. So I wouldn't be alone. But looking at it now, I realized I had betrayed myself. And Edward's memory. We would never have allowed anyone to boss us around. And now Darla wanted to evict me, sell my records, lock me in a closet. And she had the audacity to say she was putting up with me. This had to stop. I took a folder from my nightstand. The deed. The mortgage. The insurance. All in my and Edward's names. After his death, only mine. Terrence and Darla had no legal claim. They were here because I allowed it. It was time to remind them. In the morning, I would go to the bank, then a lawyer. No more concessions. No more compromises at the expense of my dignity. With that thought, I finally fell asleep. Morning brought bright sunshine and an unusual silence. Terrence's car was in the lot. They were avoiding me. I dressed in my best pantsuit, the one I wore to important hospital meetings, dark blue, austere, confidence-inspiring. Hair in a neat bun, light makeup. I looked in the mirror, not a downtrodden grandmother, but a professional, a woman who knew her worth. In the kitchen, Terrence sat over coffee, looking sleepless. Good morning, I said neutrally. He flinched. Mom, about yesterday, Darla didn't mean it. She was just on edge. No excuses, Terrence. I poured tea. Darla said exactly what she thinks, and I appreciate her honesty. Are you going somewhere? He glanced at my suit. I have things to do in town. I'll be back for dinner. He nodded, not wanting to continue. I grabbed my bag and left, my resolve growing with every step. First stop, the bank. Stephanie, my advisor, had a professional smile. How can I help you, Mrs. Hendress? I need information about my mortgage. How much is left, and my rights as the sole owner. Stephanie typed. You have a very good credit history, Mrs. Rise. Never missed a payment in 38 years. Impressive. I felt a surge of pride. Edward and I had been disciplined. Only 3 payments left, she said. After that, the apartment will be yours, unencumbered. 3 payments. 3 months. Our 30-year mortgage, taken out when we were young parents dreaming of the future, would be paid off. What about my rights? Can I evict someone? Stephanie raised an eyebrow. You are the sole owner. You have full right to decide who lives in your property. She recommended a housing lawyer. An hour later, I was with Richard Donovan, an elderly gentleman with gray temples. So, Mrs. Rise, your son and daughter-in-law have lived in your apartment for 3 years without a lease, paid no rent, and are now trying to limit your rights as owner. I nodded, relieved someone else articulated it. And yesterday, my daughter-in-law said I only live there because they tolerate me. Even though it's my apartment and I'm still paying the mortgage. Mr. Donovan shook his head. I'm afraid this is a classic case of emotional abuse of an elderly person by relatives. Emotional abuse. It hit me like a slap. Constant humiliation, devaluation, disregard. Wasn't that abuse? What are my options? As owner, you have every right to evict unwanted tenants. The law is on your side. He explained the procedure. Formal eviction notice, 30 days to vacate. If they refused, court. But I recommend starting with a conversation. Let them know you know your rights. I nodded. I didn't want court. They were my son, my grandchildren. What about the children? Legally, they're minors. If you evict the parents, the children go with them. That was the hardest part. The thought of not seeing Rachel and Oliver. But was the current situation any better for them? I thanked Mr. Donovan and left with a plan and a sample eviction notice. I stopped at a cafe. What did I really want? To evict my family, or to regain my self-respect, my dignity, control over my life? I didn't find the answer, but I knew I couldn't go back. At home, only Rachel was there, reading. Mom, I was worried. You never leave for so long. I'm sorry, dear. I had important things to do. I went to the kitchen, but Rachel followed. Grandma, I wanted to talk about yesterday. What Mom said was awful. I'm so ashamed of her. I put down groceries. You don't need to be ashamed of your parents' actions, Rachel. But I am. Not just for yesterday, for everything they do to you. It's like you're not a person, just a convenient housekeeper. I saw how hard it was for her. A 17-year-old shouldn't feel that shame. I went to a lawyer today, I said, deciding to be honest. I found out my rights as the owner. Rachel nodded, unsurprised. Are you going to evict them? I haven't decided. But I won't let them treat me this way anymore. I understand, she said quietly. And I'll support whatever you decide. Even if we have to move away. Her words touched me deeply. More maturity than her parents. Thank you, dear. I hugged her. Whatever happens, I'll always be here for you. She nodded. I know, and I'll be here for you too. We stood there, finding comfort. Then I pulled away. I'm going to get changed. Then, dinner. In my room, I saw everything untouched. No records moved, no furniture shifted. A good sign. Maybe Terrence had talked to Darla. I unpacked, showered, and helped Rachel make pasta. The kids were thrilled to have a home-cooked meal. Darla came home around 8 p.m. Oh, Marlene. You're back. Yes, as promised. How was your week? Fine. Lots of work. Terrence said you're staying late every day. Yes. Without an office at home, I have to stay longer. A subtle hint I chose to ignore. Can we talk? I asked. All of us. I have some news. Darla looked suspiciously. What news? Let's go to the living room, I suggested, so I don't have to repeat myself. She shrugged and followed. Terrence was already there. Rachel and Oliver joined us. I remained standing. I thought a lot during my vacation at Lauren's, I began, about our situation, how we've lived for 3 years, and how I want to live from now on. Darla crossed her arms, ready to defend. Terrence looked alarmed. And I've come to the conclusion that this can't go on. I took the eviction notice from my pocket. So, I've made a decision. I handed the envelope to Terrence. He opened it, read, and his face turned white. What's that? Darla snatched the paper. What is this nonsense? An eviction notice? Are you kidding? No, Darla. I shook my head. I've never been more serious. You can't evict us. She crumpled the paper. This is our home. No. I looked calmly into her eyes. This is my home. I've been paying the mortgage on it for 38 years. I let you in here 3 years ago out of compassion. But you've turned my hospitality into a right to boss me around. Darla looked as if she'd been hit. We boss you around? We take care of you. We feed you. Clean up after you. Do your laundry. No, Darla. I shook my head. I cook meals for the entire family. I clean the apartment. I do your laundry. And in return, you call me an old burden and try to evict me from my own bedroom. Darla opened her mouth but couldn't think of a response. Mom, Terrence finally found his voice. Let's discuss this. I'm sure we can work something out. Work something out, Terrence? I looked at my son. I've been compromising for 3 years. I've given in on everything from kitchen utensils to the TV schedule. I kept quiet when Darla insulted me, rummaged through my things, and belittled my feelings. I put up with you gambling away your money instead of saving for a place of your own. I let you think this was your home, even though the mortgage payments were coming out of my account the whole time. Terrence hung his head, acknowledging the truth. And you know what's the saddest part? I continued. I did it out of love. Because you're my family. But I've recently realized that real love isn't letting others treat you like a doormat. Real love is setting healthy boundaries and demanding respect. And that's why you're kicking us out? Darla's voice was bitter. Your only son and grandchildren. I'm giving you 30 days to find another place to live. That's more than the law requires, and I'm willing to help with the first month's rent if you need it. How generous, Darla snorted. Have you thought about the children? They'll have to change schools, friends. Actually, I looked at Rachel and Oliver. I want to offer them to stay with me, if they want to. There are rooms available, plenty of space. What? Darla jumped up. You want to split up our family? No. I shook my head. I'm offering them a choice. Rachel is 17. Oliver is 14. They're old enough to make their own decisions. If they want to stay with you, I'll understand. If they want to stay here, our door is always open. Darla turned to the children. Did you hear that madness? She wants to destroy our family. Rachel exchanged glances with her brother. Mom, no one is destroying the family, she said quietly. Grandma just wants to be treated with respect, and I understand her. So, you're on her side? Darla narrowed her eyes. After everything we've done for you, I'm not taking sides, Rachel straightened. But I've seen how you've treated Mom all these years, and it's not right. Darla looked at Oliver. What about you? Are you going to betray your own parents too? Oliver, silent until then, sighed. Mom, stop being so dramatic. No one is betraying anyone. Mom is her home, and you and Dad, you weren't very nice to her. Darla looked as if everyone she loved had betrayed her. She turned to Terrence for support, but he was staring at the floor. Fine, she finally said. Just fine. So, that's how it's going to be. Well, Marlene, you win. We'll move out like you want, but don't think we'll still be a family after that. We'll always be a family, I replied. But now on my terms, with mutual respect and healthy boundaries. Darla snorted, grabbed her bag, and stormed out. Terrence sat for a few more seconds, then sighed heavily and followed her, choosing the path of least resistance as always. The 3 of us remained, me and my grandchildren. Silence, broken only by the old clock. Grandma, Rachel finally said, Are you sure you don't mind if we stay with you? Of course not, I smiled. This is your home as much as it is mine. But it's your decision. They exchanged glances, silently communicating. I'll stay, Rachel said firmly. At least until I finish school. Then we'll see. Me too, Oliver nodded. The internet's good for gaming here. I laughed, feeling genuine relief for the first time in a long time. Then it's settled. We'll manage together. They went to their rooms. Rachel to prepare for her test. Oliver to his virtual battles. I remained in the living room, staring at the closed door where Terrence and Darla had disappeared. I knew they would return for their things, to talk to the children, perhaps to try to change my mind. But I would not change my decision. Enough concessions, enough compromises at the expense of my own dignity. I walked to the record shelf, the very collection Edward and I had spent a lifetime building, that Darla wanted to throw away. My fingers ran along the spines, searching. There it was, Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, Edward's favorite album. I carefully took the record out and placed it on the turntable. The soft, melancholic sounds of the trumpet filled the room. I closed my eyes, letting the music envelop me, taking me back to the days Edward and I would sit here, holding hands, dreaming. You would be proud of me, I said to him in my mind. I finally stood up for myself. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Terrence might be offended, Darla would harbor resentment, even my grandchildren might reconsider. But for the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my life. Not a ghost in my own home, but its rightful owner. I opened my eyes and smiled at the familiar walls. The photographs, the cozy armchairs. This house had seen so many stories. And now, a new chapter was beginning my chapter. I turned up the volume and slowly, uncertainly at first, then more freely, I began to move. I hadn't danced in 5 years, not since Edward passed. But my body remembered. I spun around the living room, letting Miles Davis's trumpet lead me, just as Edward had once led me. With every step, every turn, the weight of years of humiliation and self-denial fell from my shoulders. This was my home, my life, and I had finally regained the right to control it. When the record ended, I stopped, slightly out of breath, pleasantly tired. For the first time in a long time, I smiled effortlessly. Rachel was standing in the doorway, watching me with a tender smile. You were dancing, Mom, she said. I haven't seen you dance since Grandpa. Yes, I nodded. It's time to remember how to do it. She came over and hugged me. I'm glad you're back, she whispered. The real you. I hugged her tightly. I really was back. Not just to this apartment, but back to myself. The Marlene Hendress who knew her worth and wasn't afraid to stand up for herself. And this Marlene wasn't going anywhere.